Hello, today I'm joined by a corporate trainer, speaker, and author, Emma Taylor. Thanks for joining me.
Hi there, Dennis. Great to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's lovely to have you here, Emma. So let's kick this off with you telling us your background, your trajectory in life, and how you ended up doing what you're doing.
Okay, yeah. So I'm Emma Jane Taylor. I am a corporate trainer, speaker, and author. I've been in the well-being industry pretty much all of my life. All of my work is really around the well-being space, and I don't just mean physically. I'm looking at mental health and emotional health. I started my career as a dancer and moved into sort of fitness when I was maybe early 20s. And I've sort of grown my business sort of from there on in. I'm 49, 50 this year. So yeah, so I've kind of almost 30 years in this space and thoroughly enjoy it.
And I understand, Emma, that you don't just attach the word corporate to being a trainer, because one of your predominant focus is corporate behavioral change. So if you could just kind of give us a snapshot, what is corporate behavioral change and why is it important? And also what are the common applications of corporate behavioral change?
Yeah, and thank you very much for raising this. So behavioural change is a really key part of an individual's development and growth. In professional environments, so many employees cover their true emotions for fear of being exposed. This questions their ability as an employee and therefore they feel like it's going to jeopardise their job by showing vulnerability, which is needs addressing in corporate worlds. So what I do is I really understand how we can bring resilience into our lives, how we can align our mental, emotional well-being with learning how to, I call it RAP. Have you understood how you can recover, adapt, and be positive? Once you can start looking at things differently and embracing employees, corporate environments then are able to flourish. They have better focused employees. They are empowered by themselves. So so it's really important to sort of really look at how we all function, how we all work, really consider other people. And, and especially at the moment, Dennis, we've lived in this virtual world for so long. People are struggling. So, in that remote working environment, it's about sort of understanding the importance of today's workplace reality. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I do with the corporate world that I work in.
And it's really lovely how you frame it, Emma, when you mention about resilience and when you mention about thriving and surviving. And obviously, we need it more than ever, especially within the corporate landscape, as we can all agree that the way we do things has significantly changed for the past 2-3 years. And except for obviously some people who have been working at home even before the pandemic, but more than ever, I think we need to, see resilience in a different perspective. And of course, aside from being a trainer, Emma, you run the company called The Works company. So is this the main thing that you do within your company, offering corporate behavioral change, or do you offer any other services?
Oh yeah, there's loads of stuff going on at the Works company. So the Works company is made up of Stage Works. It's made up of Nutritious Works, Ocean Works, and She Networks. The latter two companies are very much sort of on hold at the moment with COVID, and the changes with the EU have meant that we haven't been able to work as we had hoped we would have been able to work. So Stageworks is a performing arts school for children 4 to 16 years old. As a dancer, it's sort of a very important part of where I am in my life and the importance of the work that I'm doing. So working with young people, I have a team of people who work there with the students, and we do shows, we do festivals. Some of our children go on to perform professionally. We've had children working in Disney. We've had children working in A-list movies that have been out. So, really exciting times with the work that we're doing there. Nutritious Works is a fitness and well-being company, and we work with adults. We work with a lot of older adults, actually, which is quite nice. So I have a team of people again there, and they do lots of classes from Pilates to Zumba to legs, bums and tums and ballet, tap, jazz. I mean, there's so much going on. And actually what's really nice is it's the older generation who can really sort of go back to some activities that they may have thought they wouldn't have been able to do, like ballet and tap again. So it's been really nice. Our oldest lady, I think, is like about 88 years old. But some of these ladies have been sort of going since I first started it, sort of 25 years ago. And even though I don't teach there, they have continued. So it has been nice sort of to see them every now and then. And of course, like I say, the work around corporate behavior change. I do work as a keynote speaker. I am an author and a personal development mentor, which is really much more about a one-to-one work with people in the well-being space, helping them get through, whether it's losing weight, getting fit, overcoming some challenges mentally. I use my training, my skills and my life education to help people get through that change. I think what I really find, and I think what I'd really like to share actually, is a lot of people look at their self and they think, oh, I want to lose weight. I want to look like whoever it is who's hot at the moment now in the celebrity world. And that's great. But actually, there's a lot of work that have to go on behind that. It's not about just losing weight. You have to really understand what your challenges are mentally and emotionally, so you can have correct tools to help you once you've gone through that process of weight loss and fitness and changes. So the whole sort of dynamic of working mentally, emotionally and physically really is a strength. If one of those is missing, it's like having three legs. If one of those is missing, you're going to fall over. So all of that comes under the Works company, and it's very much about, you know, your well-being and your lifestyle, from whether you're 4 years old or 104 years old. That's what we do.
Absolutely. So it's really a dynamic company, and through that, you know, umbrella, if you will, you're offering all sorts of services within, you know, helping people improve themselves. But another thing that I discovered, Emma, is that you're also involved in a project called 9010, quite an interesting name. Tell us more about it.
Yeah. So 9010 is my new baby, actually. So as a survivor of child sex abuse, I am an advocate and voice on this subject. And over the last sort of few years, since my book was published, actually, where I shared my story, I was 44, so it was 5 years ago. I really realized the importance of speaking up, speaking out, giving other people just some hope by hearing your story, that they're not alone. And as the years have rolled on, and I've been very fortunate to have my story shared across the world, and I don't recommend that to anyone unless you've had a lot of support behind you. And when I say that, I mean, I've had years and years and years of therapy. I didn't even think I'd speak out about my subject of child sex abuse and my traumatic and difficult story, but I did. And as I've grown and developed, like with anything in life, things have been happening. And I got to a point where I was thinking, I just felt like I wanted to do more. And so I founded Project 9010 in 2021. We are setting it up as a charity. It's still in the very embryonic stages, but we're doing a lot of work around this to get the message out on what we're looking to achieve. And that is education around the subject of child sex abuse, safeguarding, helping people understand what they can do maybe at schools or in authorities about looking out for signs, looking out for difficulties, and helping challenge conversations that ordinarily might have just been sort of put to one side. So it's really a vehicle for influential change through education and awareness campaigns, and something that I am so proud of and I absolutely love being part of.
And I would imagine a lot of this, the things that you do, especially with helping children who are victims of child sex abuse, they can learn more about this on your website. So what I'll do is I'll put on the links. So for anyone who wants to learn more about that very important work, they can get in touch with you directly. Now, Emma, you mentioned earlier that you're also a speaker, and I happened to end up with one of your TEDx talks. So tell us about your TEDx talk, and also if you've got some tips for those who, wants to follow your footsteps of becoming a TEDx speaker.
Yeah, so I don't know about you, Dennis. I like to have, I have whiteboards, you can't see them, but there's whiteboards everywhere around me. And on there, I put the things, they're a bit like vision boards. And after I wrote my book and developed my story and realized that, my story had sort of made a difference to so many people's life, I really felt that I needed to sort of get out there a little bit more. So I started speaking about it. I got offered lots of great platforms to speak at. And on my horizon was the TEDx platforms. And I really felt I had a message to share. And how was I going to do that? Because it's not easy to get onto any TEDx stage, because as you know, I'm sure it's about having a conversation that is educational, can give thought process. So, it's not about giving a keynote speech as such. It's about giving something that is interesting, educational, and thought-provoking. So I'd gone through a couple of processes with various TEDx platforms, and I'd got so far, and then they were like, oh no, it's not right for us. But one thing I have learned in my life is you just don't give up. Actually, these doors shutting become bigger doors to be opened somewhere else. And then just through my networking and speaking, I came across TEDx Londonderry. And I got speaking with the people there, and it was sort of on hold, on hold off. And then suddenly out of the blue, I get this call saying, right, we're ready to do your talk. I'd created a pitch that was the right pitch for TEDx. So if you are thinking about doing TEDx, I'd go and research the hell out of it, because you really need to make sure that you've got the right tone, the right pitch, the right words for them. Then they help you develop it. And of course, I knew exactly what I wanted to say with the messages that I was saying for my TED talk, but it was to make it right for TEDx. So there was a lot of work that sort of went in to make it right. But that's how I did it. I'm very proud of that TEDx talk and the support that it is given to many people already.
Absolutely. And as what you've said, it's not supposed to be a keynote, like your keynote on a conference, but it's more of a, I suppose, a conversation with a larger audience. And so for anyone who wants to, see your TEDx talk, I'll also put the link on the description note. But Emma, let's step back a bit, because you mentioned about your book. So tell us more about your book, and also who's the target reader.
Okay, so my book is called Don't Hold Back. It is it's my revealing book, I suppose. It shares my story, the traumatic story of my journey to heal from child sex abuse, rejection, abandonment, and how I got through that difficulty to become a successful businesswoman, to become confident, empowered as I am today. And when I use success, I'd like to really sort of put a footnote there. I don't consider myself successful monetary. It is much deeper than that for me, with what I've achieved in my life. I want to share my story of recovery, speaking up, and forgiveness to give other people hope. And I want other people to realize the power of the human spirit in overcoming adversity and trauma, because that is really, really important. So my book is full of practical tools, possibilities. It does share my harrowing experiences, but those experiences have given me invaluable life lessons, which have allowed me to develop as a person in business and also into my personal life. Anyone who's gone through any adverse difficulties, certainly in this subject of child sex abuse, will know how difficult it is, and how hard it is to sort of get through that, to not feel the vulnerable, insecure, low self-esteem characteristics that you display from having that abuse, and actually what you can achieve. So it's really about sort of saying, look, whatever your experience, I hope that I can give some motivational tips and exercises that can help you with new possibilities to discover yourself. I don't hold back in my honesty and compassion with writing this book, but I hope that it sort of gives people food for thought. So the audience, I would say, is everyone actually, Dennis, from child sex abuse survivors to loved ones of child sex abuse survivors. I think also it's one of the things I have done last year is speak to perpetrators. I think there is a world, perpetrator world, the perpetrator's loved ones. I think it's really good to hear the other side as well, because it can help support people. And also, you know, the education system and safeguarding system. To read this book is really important. And also it's to get allies to read this, because it's the allies that can help people like myself and the millions like me across the world sharing our voice. We need to not just keep going round in circles with our survivor communities and people who have, you know, experiences and education on this subject. We need to reach allies. So it's a book that could educate everyone. So I like to say it's for everyone, actually, Dennis. Not everybody might feel comfortable reading it, but actually, until we have these uncomfortable conversations, we are going to have no change on the subject of child sex abuse. And as I'm sure you're aware, I'm very passionate about this space and making a change.
And I suppose that's what you mean by, on your website, I found this phrase, I'm turning a whisper into a strong voice. It's all about generating conversations, whether you've experienced a trauma yourself or you're just, or you're simply an ally. But Emma, well, when we talk about resilience, when we talk about recovery, not a lot of people, especially those who have experienced traumatic experiences, not a lot of them would have these seemingly innate capacity to be resilient. So from your perspective as a personal development coach and from someone who has lived experience of traumatic adversity, what would you say makes someone resilient?
I think we all go through our own difficulties in life. Every person has a story. Every person has something that they've had to endure and overcome, whether it be a story like mine, maybe it's a difficult childhood with your parents, maybe there's some addictions or disorders. Someone is going through something somewhere. So, you know, what makes resilience? I think that's a really, really, really important question. And I think when you're looking at that, resilience really comes from how you go from the depths of the dark spaces that you find yourself in at times, to find your way into a world where it's brighter, it's clearer, and it can bring you your success. And like I say, success to me isn't monetary. I like to encourage people to not think that way. Obviously, financial does really help all of us, but when you're going through any adverse trauma or difficulties and trying to work your way through, it's, you know, it's really that emotional grit and the mental health that you have to overcome to become a resilient person and find your way forward. So with the work that I'm doing, it's really sort of looking at facilitating and supporting the journeys of my clients and looking at where they are now, what they want to achieve, and how we're going to get there. So you look at I call it the sandwich as such, the beginning, the end, and what's the filling. So, you know, we're really looking closely at the mind, the body, and looking at how we can sort of really connect the emotional and mental and physical well-being back together. Thinking outside of the box, how can you focus your mindset? How can you really sort of like make your plans, your goals, and reach your success? Unless you have a clear vision of what you're trying to do. So it's really about understanding how you can push through barriers, how you can find your success, how you can enjoy the world that you live in. And that will give you that strength and resilience to remember that you're okay, to understand that you're not alone, and that you do have the capability to achieve so much more than you maybe are at the moment.
Now, Emma, it's actually one of those human characteristics that it's really difficult to put your finger on it, because even resilience researchers themselves, they don't know whether it's a skill, whether it's an outcome, or whether it's a process. But I suppose it's a more healthy message if we convey to people that it's actually a skill, that it's something that you can develop. It's not something that you're born with. And your story actually just reminded me of a brilliant research done on the 1970s, late 70s. There was this resilience researcher, and what he did is he had two groups. One group is a group of school children, and one group is child street vendors in Brazil. And what he found out is that those child street vendors, even though they did not go to school, they can outperform school children when it comes to computing ratios or percentage. And presumably that's because, you know, if you're not good with numbers on the street, you won't be making profit. And I think that's an elegant demonstration that in spite of you not being able to go to school, obviously it's because of poverty, you still manage to acquire some skills. And that goes back, that ties in with what you said, that in spite of you experiencing an adverse life conditions, you just think outside the box. You know, you look for ways on how you can cultivate, you know, thriving and flourishing. And I think that's a more healthy way of looking at resilience.
Absolutely. And actually, if I can add there, actually, Dennis, when I was at school, I was told I was a failure, the girl going nowhere. They labeled me a juvenile delinquent. They threw me into isolation. They suspended me. I was sent to a junior psychiatrist. So constantly I was being layered with this just failure label all over me. And I was going through adverse difficulties in my life. So as an early age, I really sort of had this weight on me that I wasn't going to achieve anything in life until I realized sort of in my late teens, early 20s that I can do something. I can make a difference. I had some passions and I wanted to explore those. So, you know, like you say, I mean, you know, where you come from, what you're doing and what you've learned can really help you get through, and it'd be surprised. I think we're all much more surprised when we realize actually we've all gone through difficulties, adverse difficulties, and we are all resilient. We just don't know how to use it and how to put it into context to make our lives better.
Absolutely. And I suppose that's ties in with the common expression, expert by experience. You learn it along the way. But you've done all of things, Emma. You're a corporate speaker, you're also a trainer and an author. But what would you say are the highlights of your career so far?
Oh, that's a big question. The highlights of my career, I would say absolutely the TED Talk was a really significant moment in my career, because that was when I hurdled a few jumps and said, right, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna stand up. I'm gonna put my message out there because I believe in it and I know how powerful it's going to be to other people's lives. So there's been lots of brilliant things that I've achieved in my life. Even just setting up the business to start with would have been the first one, because I never thought I was capable of that. Obviously, I've had to learn in business. So significant moments, setting up the business 25 years ago, and doing the TED Talk at this point in my life. And I've also was very fortunate about 8 years ago to have been invited to be the presenter on the Wellbeing Show for That's TV. When you've been told you're a failure, you're not going to achieve much, go nowhere, and you're labelled a juvenile delinquent, you believe that. Yet here was someone wanting me to present the Wellbeing Show for the Wellbeing Show on That's TV. That was really significant. So I would say those three significant things have been a really important part of my career. Now,
let's talk about setting up a business, Emma, because I read one of these articles from Medium that says that now in 2020, we now have more founders than ever before. So do you have any practical tips when it comes to setting up a business, and what has been your biggest learning since you started? Or would you say that because we have so many founders and entrepreneurs now, or entrepreneurs, that we're actually better off just sticking to your normal 9-to-5 job, so because it's more financially secure? Or would you advise people to, you know, try it, start your own business?
Okay, wow. Now I could do with another 10 hours to start this conversation. So I think anyone going into business, you're going into business because you're passionate about that thing that you're going into business for. And if you're not, then I would really want to know why you're going into business. What is it that has made you take this path? Because going into business is not an easy fix. You know, I remember someone saying to me once, "Oh, you're so lucky. You can pick and choose your own hours." And I'm thinking, this isn't luck. I work 24/7, 365 days a year, and have done for the best part of 30 years. Would I change it? No. What have I learned? Well, here you go, Dennis. One of the things I learned very early on in my career was delegation is very important for you to grow. And I am very passionate about the work that I'm doing. I'm sure you can tell. I love what I'm doing. I love what I'm achieving. I love where I'm going with everything. But I couldn't do that on my own. But it was very hard trying to hand that over to someone else, because it was almost like I felt like it was me saying, I'm just not capable. But it wasn't. It was about understanding that growth and development is important for my world, for my business. So now my trick is that I employ people far more talented than me. And I do that because I know how important growth is to a business. I also realize with training and experience that we're all looking at things differently. But I also accept that there is a new generation coming up, and this new generation are really savvy and smart. And, you know, this new generation are very tech savvy, and it's tech savvy people that you need around you as well, I would say, when you're moving forward into your business, because the tech world is kind of, you know, I know social media and I know how to use the internet, and I do Word and presentations and Excel and so on and so forth, but they can do so much more. And what they're achieving and what they're giving can allow your business to develop. And with that development, you can really sort of grow with new life and new people. So delegation was really important to me. Employing people's far more talented than me, and also accepting that whilst I am the boss and I do have a team and I do have a business and clients, and we do have to keep the wheels moving all the time like you would in any business, it was really looking at where I sat as a leader. And I see if I can find it and share with you, Dennis, but there's an analogy that I leaned into, and it was the wolf analogy. And there's this picture of the wolf pack going up a mountain. And it was really interesting for me because the leader was at the back and the young, strong ones were at the front. And it took me a while to really digest that and see the importance of it. But it was super important. You need to lead not just from in front, but you also need to lead from behind and give those younger, more able, more talented in other areas than you the chance to grow, because with their growth comes your success. So, you know, whilst I sit here and I'm very proud of all the things that I've achieved, I have to say I'm just so proud of the team that I have created and who I work with, because without them, I wouldn't be half the woman I am today.
Absolutely. That delegation thing really resonates with me, Emma, because I'm just like you. I also started my company, but my motivation for starting a company is a lot shallow, because basically I just don't want to commute all the way to London every day. I
love your honesty.
Like, yeah, if I could just find a job that I could do at home, I won't have to do this every day. So that was my motivation. And I know it was very shallow, but when I started my company, I did not delegate. I tried to do everything with video editing, with publishing contents, and also social media. I did everything, and I thought that was a good way for you to save money. But like what you said, if you really want growth, you can't just be like an all-around entrepreneur. You have to depend on someone who's more skillful than you. Like, I've got to be honest, I've got to spill a secret with you, Emma. My video, I'm not doing the editing. Someone else is doing it for me, and also my social media. I can't be present on all social media platforms 24 hours a day. Yeah, someone is doing that for me. So yeah, there's also a team of 6 people helping me. So yeah, that delegation is really important when you want to achieve growth, whatever you're doing. So thank you for reminding us about that, and also have a good accountant. It is really
important. Really important, and a good bookkeeper.
Yes, absolutely.
Because when I meet my accountant once a year, she always says, "I know you're going to glaze over. I just want to know what it all means financially, but all the other ins and outs are important to know. But actually, I like to be out there, front end business, not worrying about what's going on behind me. But I know how important it is to keep on top of that as well."
Yes, and also when it comes to marketing, because a lot of people say that when you set up a business, you have to spend a lot of money with marketing. Just like you, Emma, with CrossPath, with a Facebook group. So there's so many free groups there that you could join to kind of market yourself. You don't have to spend a lot of money, because PR actually costs about at least 2,000, and you don't have to spend that money, especially if you're not really earning that much. So you just have to do with what you've got. But let's move on from business to a more personal side of you, Emma. I was just wondering if there is a particular individual or a book who has the greatest influence on your work.
Yeah, I've had over the years, I've been very fortunate to work with some really powerful, significant people. And my first boss, she was a really strict boss. And, we're talking like 30 years ago now. And it was when I was sort of much more in the personal fitness space. We were training high-end celebrities, very professional people. So I had to be there at 5 o'clock in the morning, and we started at 5:30, and I had to stay and clean and and if you put a foot wrong, you'd be in trouble. So I felt sometimes I was, oh God, this is so tough. Why is she so mean to me? But you know what? She's become my mentor now, and her name is Linda Mosley. And I thank her actually for the work ethic she gave me, and understanding there's no cutting corners, right? You have to invest in, whether it is getting people to do it or taking that extra time to do it. You do have to really sort of lean in to people who are teaching you things that you feel is hard. Now, if it's in an area that you really feel passionate about, roll with it, lean into it and embrace it, because actually, whilst it might be hard work at the time, it will give you some really good strengths to add value to the work that you're doing. So I would say, as a person, it would be Linda Mosley, who has given me, a great deal of strength in the workplace. I do work really hard. Maybe I always would have worked hard, but I think she definitely made me look at things a little bit differently with the work ethic that I have. So yes, so my credit would go to Linda. Book-wise, I've read so many books, and you probably, I don't know if you can see, but I have got books everywhere around me, and I like to pick up different books all the time. Now there is the monkey chatter, the chimp inside book that I think has been a very valuable source to the work that I'm doing. Just to remember, is the chimp paradox, I think it is. And just to remember that, you know, there's lots of noise going on in you all the time, and how you deal with that and how you process that to sort of better your own life. So that's there are the two things that I would sort of really lean in with.
Brilliant books, and also like what you've said, work ethic is important, whatever you choose to do, whether setting up your own business or you just want to work for a company. Now, Emma, if you weren't a speaker or an author, what would you have pursued in your life? In another time, another space, what would have Emma been?
Oh, I love this question. I would have been a dolphin trainer. And I always used to think, you know, I very narrow-minded about that. I just wanted to be a dolphin trainer. But actually, one of my girlfriends, she works in Hawaii, is working with wild dolphins. And I just think, actually, it's not captivity I want to work with. I want to work in the wild. I would have gone out and worked with dolphins. And years ago, I used to work in a pub. Now, I don't drink alcohol, and I haven't drunk alcohol for about 25 years, or cigarettes or anything like that, actually. My life is pure and clean. But I loved working in a bar. And I love that, you know, working in a bar, the people you meet, and just the fun that we used to have dancing behind the bars, and just interacting with people and having a bit of fun. So I think I would like to, and it sounds completely different to what who I am today, but going out and working with wild dolphins out in the wild, and then maybe at nighttime going in and working in some crazy bar and just having a bit of fun. My reality is very different, but that is something that I know that I thoroughly enjoyed.
I won't blame you. I've been on a dolphin show, and it's really fascinating what those trainers can do with some traits to the dolphins. Now, finally, Emma, the floor is all yours. Tell us about your future projects or your current projects, and if people wanted to reach out to you, what platforms can they get in touch with you at?
Thank you, Dennis. So you can find me EmmaJaneTaylor.com. On there, you'll find links to all my social media: LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. On LinkedIn, I do talk very openly about my work in the corporate world, but I also do touch on my work as an advocate and voice for child sex abuse. Twitter is very much about child sex abuse. So if you want to join me on those conversations there, then please do. Instagram can be a bit of fun as well. I kind of post a few pictures of my world as I would on Facebook. So I interact, excuse me, I interact with people on all of those platforms. And everyone is a very different conversation. I'm focused now on the work I'm doing in education on reducing child sex abuse. So going into schools, safeguarding. We're in the embryonic stages of building our charity. I have got a very strong advisory board, ambassadors, trustees, and we need more people. So if you are listening and watching this and thinking, yeah, I can resonate with that and I want to know more, then do get in touch. Go to EmmaJaneTaylor.com. All the contact details are there. I'm writing a second book, and my second book is really, again, focused on child sex abuse, real voices, and what we're learning that can help make a difference. I touched on it earlier, but last year I interviewed 3 perpetrators, and actually it was quite an interesting exercise, because I knew that it was something I wanted to do, and I also realized how important it was to hear these voices, because it was these voices that could really help the work that I was doing and with the people that I'm working with. So that's where I am. Professionally, I continue with my work as a corporate trainer and personal development mentor, and always happy to speak to anybody about anything at any time regarding child sex abuse. So, and it's been a pleasure to be here with you today, Dennis. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your platform.
Well, thank you, Emma. And like what you've emphasized, it's all about visibility with those stories of surviving and stories of recovery with child sex abuse. So I'll put on the link so for anyone who wants to, be involved more with what you're doing, they can get in touch with you. Well, Emma Taylor, it's a pleasure having you here on the VRH show, but unfortunately, our time is up. I look forward to hearing more about your work.
Thank you, Dennis, and good luck with everything you're doing. You're doing a great job.